brentonsawin. Hello, YouTube land. This is brentonsawin coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. Before we get started, if anyone out there has a Bigfoot encounter, dogman encounter, or supernatural story, anything like that, you can contact me at brentonsawin@gmail.com. If you want to help contribute and support this channel, you can go to PayPal me. Link is in the description. And I recently started a Patreon account, and I'll try to put that link in the description. And that is something I haven't ever done yet, so I don't really know exactly how that works. But you can go there and check it out, and it's basically like a monthly thing that you can do, and it would very much be helpful during this time where YouTube has had some issues with AdSense and what have you. But today we have a fellow that I met up with on Facebook, and we'll just go to him and let him tell what he wants to tell, because I'm not exactly sure just yet. So anyway, hey bud, how you doing?
I'm doing fine there, Brent. It's good to hear from you. I really love listening to your show. I think it's great. I like the program that you have. It's real honest with your thoughts and your people out there in YouTube land that listen to you. And that's kind of what drew me to getting in contact with you. My name is Perrry Staten. I'm from the Ohio River Valley, where I grew up. All my lineage is from Kentucky, Ohio River Valley.
That's cool. I really didn't realize exactly where you were from. I'm getting a lot of stories from Ohio, and actually I have like 2 or 3 coming up from Indiana. So this whole area is kind of a good hot spot, really, I think, don't you?
Oh yeah, it's like I say, I'm 61 years old, and that's basically how I got interested in it. There was a lot of history about this Bigfoot creature in Ohio, but in Kentucky. But I'm really interested in getting up something with the LBL one of these days. Soon I'm talking to a couple good friends of mine that I've known for years to see maybe we can do a little trip up there sometime. But I'll get started by telling you that I first got interested in Bigfoot way before Roger Patterson, Bob Gimlin film, the Patty film. There was always stories and stuff as a kid about people seeing something they didn't quite know what it was or whatnot. And one case where it was a couple college kids with a bear hide and a moose head on, standing on the shoulders peeking in women's house windows. I think they got the sheriff's department involved in that. That was a crazy story. So there's a lot of pranksters out there too. But I was 12 years old in grade school when we decided to take our class took a trip to Washington, D.C., and we got to see the sights and whatnot. And we went to the Smithsonian Institution. And, of course, in there I say you could spend a month in those buildings and stuff and never see everything. But I was amazed, and what really got me started on my 50-year search and research on Bigfoot was the fact that it was a life-changing event for me as a 12-year-old boy. All the other class, I kind of got separated from them because I saw this glass case, and it had this creature in it, and on the little brass thing it said Bigfoot. And it didn't say Bigfoot, it actually said Sasquatch, but on the little brass plate. And this was approximately about 1967. And I saw this thing, and it was, like I say, said it was a Sasquatch, all right? And it intrigued me so much that that's all I looked at. I stood there the whole time the class was up there and everything. They had to come find me, had to come looking for me. But if you were to go to the Smithsonian today, I don't think you'd see it because I believe they switched stuff around, but it was in a section, in the back section of this building, and like archaeological stuff that they had found and stuff like that. So, you know, but I was intrigued with it. It was a life-changing event for me, and started me on my journey. So I didn't quite know what to think of it as a 12-year-old kid. It just amazed me, you know. So I started looking into it and listening to stories and stuff that people and newspaper reports and on the news and stuff, people thinking they seen this creature and whatnot and all, in and around Ohio, around city of Mansfield, Ohio, actually all over Ohio at that time. So my dad was a traveler, and he's an adventurer, a treasure seeker and stuff like that. And as a young boy, he'd take us on trips out west and stuff, and we'd go camping, just me and my two brothers, and mom and my sister would stay at home usually. But at 16 years old, I think somewhere around 1971, something like that, we were traveling through the west out there from Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, down to Arizona and New Mexico. And I believe it was on a road out in the middle of nowhere, actually, because we took the back roads and stuff. But I believe it was old Highway 66 at the time. And my memory at 61 ain't that good, but I believe it was New Mexico. But it might have been as we went into Arizona. I'm not sure. But kept seeing these advertised big old signs said, "See the thing, see the thing, see the thing." You know, for miles and miles and miles, right? We kept going and couldn't figure out where this thing was at. You know, it says, "See the thing, see the thing." Finally, we arrived at this little kind of like desert store, souvenir shop kind of thing. They had rattlesnakes and they had this and that and the other. And they had this thing. And the guy that run the place, he really didn't know what it was. He said this is why he called it the thing. But he had it in like just in a plain, like you go in a store and see a glass showcase kind of thing. Had it in that and had it sitting outside. All right.
Right.
And it was pretty much, I'd say, in a state of decomp or whatever. In this case, it was, you know, you could see some of the bones of the skeleton, and it still had some flesh and hair and stuff on it. But what amazed me about it was, and we got talking to him about it, I knew what it was, because I had seen one in the Smithsonian at 12 years old, and it looked just like it. But he didn't know what it was. He just found it thing and put it in his sideshow souvenir shop's little store, you know, there. But that's exactly what it was. So that was my second experience, which intrigued me anymore. I said, there's got to be something to this, you know, legend and myths and stories and everything, and always have some little bit of fact to them, you know, usually. I mean, common sense tells you that, you know, legends and myths and stuff, there's always some truth or fact to the basis of whatever that is. And so I started my search even more, and as I got older and I was in the service and went overseas and in the Army, I'm an old Army veteran grunt, I searched every place I went and traveled all over Europe to find out things about this, see what they knew, and then back out west and spent 10 years out in Colorado, about 3 years out in Arizona, out in the Mojave Desert in California, and places like that. You know, I've done a lot of traveling in my time, and always searching or researching things on Bigfoot, Sasquatch. And I'd always get bits and pieces of information and stories and whatnot. And in my research, I found out that in Northern California, back in the early 50s, the loggers out there had found a creature. And they contacted the Forestry Service, and I guess like game wardens or whatever. But they came in and they took this animal from the way the story was. And this stuff is that I'm telling you about these things is documented, you know, in newspaper articles and what like that. But they took this creature, and it was a pregnant female Sasquatch that they found in a creek bed, right? And they took this creature, the Forestry Service took this creature, they took it to some university in California. Now, what university that is for sure, I can't remember when I read about it. And there's also a woman in it, and I can't remember her name. She did part of the examination on it, and she wrote some papers on it and stuff. Like I say, I can't remember her name, but it's all been documented, you know. That's how I found it. And you might be able to find it on microfilm or something like that, the article. But the government came in and they whisked these things away, and that was the last that was ever wrote about them. All right. And this was back in the years of, you know, when Renee Dow-Hendon was doing his research and all that kind of stuff too, when he was first getting started and whatnot. If any of the listeners out there know who Renee Dow-Hendon is, he's another guy that really got me involved in reading and listening to everything that he could find on it, because I found out that he had a 20-year grant with the Smithsonian and to research and search for Bigfoot. And he went out and talked to a lot of Indian tribes and whatnot, and people that had sightings and stuff. Now, whether or not he ever saw a Bigfoot was never clear to me in any of the stuff I read on him. But I don't believe he did in his 20 years of searching, but eventually Smithsonian dropped his grant. And then later on, it was, I don't know how many years, I'm going to say a few years before Roger Patterson, Bob Gimlin come out with this Patty film. But the next one that was found and done and treated, the incident treated the same way, was loggers up in Washington found one dead in a tree. They called in Forestry Service. The Forestry Service come in, and they confiscated it, took it to a university in California, and then some guys come in and whisked it away, probably the Smithsonian. So I'm pretty sure that in the archives of the Smithsonian, they have at least, and maybe more now, but at least 3 Bigfoots. But you probably won't find them on display. And the reason is, our government basically, without publicly coming out and said it, has pretty much over the years, kind of secretly, but yet spent a lot of money on it, have pretty much fessed up to, yes, this creature exists, because you can find stuff that says like up in Washington, they put out a book that's with the fauna and animals and creatures of the national parks up there.
Hello. Must have got cut off there. We got a bad storm coming through.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, man, I have a really bad thunderstorm that's rolling through, and I think it cut us off. So sorry about that. But you were to the point. You were to the point where you were talking about the Smithsonian, and you don't think they would see any. If you were to go there, you wouldn't see any kind of activity or any displays and stuff like that. So
I don't think nowadays you would, unless you could possibly some way have enough influence to get access or permission to look at the archives that they have. You know, they hold a lot of archives and stuff. You know, like when they go out and they used to dig up all these Indian mounds and graves and stuff and take the bones to examine them and stuff. And now they're, you know, starting to give them back to the Indians, the tribes and whatnot.
Continue with your story, and then we'll get into that here when you're done, because I think that's an interesting aspect of the whole phenomenon is the cover up. And
yeah, it really is. I think that if they could avoid the economic issues of it, they would probably come out and they would probably designate them as a protected species. But a lot of people don't think they exist, and nobody ever is going to really believe that they exist until they actually see one themselves. They're always going to be skeptical. I know I was skeptical at times, especially after 50-some years, and then finally seeing one last year with 3 other witnesses that, I mean, I wasn't even looking for Bigfoot. Sitting in the house talking to one of my coworkers that I work with, and all of a sudden the window between the two of us, I had 2 chairs, 2 recliners that sit beside the living room window, and all of a sudden the window went completely dark. And y'all, we never did see the face or the head of this creature, but I saw the main frame of its body, upper torso, you could say, and it was a auburn, brown, and black color of hair, not fur, hair, 2 to 4 inches long on it, and it looked like 2 dark, these plastic school book kind of, it's the closest thing I could think to describe it, school book folders where this creature's pec muscles were. I guess that's what you call them, the chest muscles. And it was massive. Now, my window measures about 34 inches wide, right? And for me to go outside and stand on the ground to the windowsill comes up to about my nose, and I'm 6 foot. So to the top of that window, right, well, actually to the top of my trailer, I measured it with tape measure from the ground, is 10 foot 6 inches. And like I said, if we did not see a head, it was above the window, and it wasn't there that long, right? But what I saw and what he saw at the same time, we both had the reaction, looked at each other real quick and said, "What the hell was that? Did you see that?" "Yeah, well, I've seen that. Did you see that?" That was our reaction. It was like, I knew what it was, or what I thought it was, but at first it don't hit you like, I was stunned. I was amazed. I said, no, that can't be. It's not supposed to exist. What everybody says, but I always thought it did. Well, it amazed me so. It shocked us so much, and then it was gone, like in a flash. Right? I mean, it was there. I'm going to estimate, if you can experience what I just told you, it was that long. Right? And then what we did, not thinking logically, got up, went to the front door, went out on my deck. I got a pretty good sized deck, and just looked towards the woods. I sat maybe 30 feet from the edge of the woods, right? And looked towards the woods. Now, these woods run probably 500 yards deep, and then it turns into a cow pasture, because I'm on a 536 acre farm that I live on a friend's acreage, and he runs about 100 head of cattle with burros and whatnot, and he has 21 pay per catfish ponds that people fish at. So we're standing out there on the deck, and it like I say, it was daylight, but it was getting towards dusk when this happened. And when we went out there, all we heard was the cows in the burrows sounding off, raising the hill. And I said, because you know how a cow will moan when it's dropping a calf or something? Right. Well, this was like all of them making that sound, and the burrows just going off. Like we got a lot of coyotes around here, but these burrows, when they go off with a coyote, you may hear them make one or two sounds, and they're usually running it off or kicking the shit out of it, or something. Excuse my language, kicking it, or protecting the cows. This was totally different. These cows were going off, the burrows were going off, and then we heard this blood-curdling sound that I had never heard before. And all I can explain to you how it was is it started out as a low, gurgling sound similar to, but it was loud, similar to almost the growl or roar of a bear, I want to say. And then it went weird on us. It got higher, and it sounded like a high scream, not really a scream, but a screeching, almost like a woman being murdered or something, or attacked or something. And it was really freaked us out. We'd come back in the house, right? And I didn't go out the rest of that night. And so the next day, after we got, like I said, we worked together. We got off work. We were down here. They got a little restaurant and bait shop restaurant they called Rainbow Falls. We were down there in the little store, and the neighbor that lives on the other side of the farm, on the other side of the pasture up there, her and her brother-in-law came in there, and they were standing at the cash register paying for the goods, and overheard them talking about this thing, and what they couldn't figure out what it was that they saw and heard. And so me and my coworker, we got up. I walked up there and I asked her, I said, "What did you say? Tell me exactly what you think you saw and heard." And she said, first they live in a trailer too, and they said, we were in the trailer and we heard this sound, couldn't figure out what it was or where it was coming from. And they walked outside, and they said, we got like a power line on that side. He said there was this black creature some distance away, standing in the power line on two legs, hollering this stuff, right? He said, then it went in the woods. He says, we came back in the trailer and didn't come out the rest of the night. That's what she told me. That was her exact words that she told me. And so then I went ahead and told her what myself and my friend had seen that same night, only at my place. And the thing about it was, when I went out that next morning after this happened, I went out there and I measured. I stood at that window. That's how I know the bottom of the sill come to my nose. And I took the tape measure and measured to the top of the trailer, and that's how I know it was 10 foot 6 inches. And then I turned around, and there was no prints there, in that area. So I started looking around, and there was one sandy bare spot in the yard, because I got grass and pine straw and stuff all over it. I don't keep my yard up very well, but there's one bare spot, and it had one footprint in it. And so I took a picture of that footprint, and I looked, and what I thought was really weird, there was only one print. I looked around trying to find more footprints, and I'm not thinking, I'm thinking like human step, like what, 2.5, maybe 3 feet. I'm looking and I don't see nothing, so I just came back in the house, and let it go at that. Later on, I got to thinking, well, and it was too late to go out and look for any footprints. The one that I took the picture of was long faded with the rain and stuff we got, but I never got to thinking that I needed to try to go farther to see if this thing, because from the stories I've heard, they've got pretty good stride or jump on them. So, but I only found one footprint. So I took a picture of that. I can send you the picture too.
Yeah, that would be great, man.
When we get done, I'll do that. But so that was my live experience, and that's like last year, right. 2016. So all those years that I've been since I was 12 years old, looking and searching and never seeing one, and never finding a footprint, thinking I found footprints, but you couldn't tell for sure,
Yeah.
But, and then when I'm not researching, farthest thing from my mind, sitting here talking to a buddy I work with, and this thing shows up at my window, which makes me think you're not going to see them unless they want you. They want to be seen by you for some reason or another. But they absolutely, I know for a fact that there's a carbon-based life form creature out there that is huge. Now, I wished I would have, some ways I wished I would have got to see its face, its head, but I didn't. And I wished in some ways that I would have been brave enough at that time, but I'm 61 now. One of my younger years, there wasn't nothing. I'd have chased the thing down. I was like one of these guys, I want to go hunt this thing and all that, but over the years and learning what I've learned about them in my research and whatnot, you're not going to hunt one of these things. It's probably going to hunt you. And the thing about it is, if you was to try to kill one, which I wouldn't, but that my firm belief is the only way it's going to come out and be proven is it's going to take a body without getting it confiscated away from you. But it's going to take a body. But I truly believe there is a carbon-based life form creature out there, and my theory on that is way out there. Some people probably won't believe it, but I think they're our long-lost distant cousin. I think that there are 6 types of Bigfoot. I also think that the first 4 types, and they got as much differences in them as we have in our human race, in mankind. And as far as attitudes, or if you want to call them attitudes or whatnot, or whatever, is varied as ours are. I truly believe they're a distant cousin of man, and I believe that all this is going to come out within the next couple of years. I know there's one guy that claims he has one that's cut up into pieces and frozen that his father and his father's guide shot back in 1953, and it was willed to him when his father died. He says it claims it cost his mother and father to separate and divorce after his father showed it to his mother and she seen the head of it. But he claims he's got it cut up. I've seen the videos of it. The guy's name's Peter Kane, I believe. Some of them, if you watch it, some of them will think it's he's pretty eccentric, and he's been known to be called, it's a fake. He's made this thing up, but he actually in the videos displays I think the feet and the hand and some other body parts. He hasn't shown the head yet. But
is he the fellow that has the dog training videos?
Yeah, that's him.
That is a fake for sure. That guy is a absolute fake. I believe you and everything you said, but this dude is a hoaxer.
Well, I'm keeping an open mind on him for one thing. We're going to know whether he's a fake or not, because he says he has a Japanese businessman that's backing him on building this museum that's going to be open in 2019.
But if you go look at his channel, though, you'll see he has a dog training type channel. And he started making videos about Bigfoot having sex in his backyard. And
that's what I mean about him being an eccentric and drinking Bigfoot's blood and all that. Yeah, that's what I mean about he's got some good points and he's got some crazy bad eccentric points. So you got to take it with a grain of salt.
I believe that there's proof out there, but I don't think he has it. Maybe I'm wrong. But if you kind of look over his stuff all together, that you'll see that he's done
pretty out there.
He's done a disservice to the Bigfoot community on the way that he's produced this stuff. And
there's a lot of people out there that have done that, but then there's just as many out there that are pretty legit.
Yeah. No, I believe you, though. I mean, because I for one thing, I think the Smithsonian has, the Smithsonian actually was created to display hollow Earth content. There was some.
I didn't know that. I knew the guy that first, I think, was a foreigner, maybe a Brit, that first started the Smithsonian.
Yeah, and they were going to do some expeditions like around Admiral Byrd's time and stuff like that, and they were going to bring stuff back and display it in the Smithsonian, and over time it became something totally different, and a lot of the skeletons and stuff that were found, like in the mounds that you're talking about, and they were whisked away by the Smithsonian and hidden, and you got to wonder why they would do that, but
I've seen some pictures of those giants supposedly.
Yeah,
that they
I mean, there's obviously been stuff found all throughout the country. And I used to live in one town called Moundsville, Alabama. And I remember the mounds and stuff there. And so when I see these mounds and stuff, that it makes me think that what the heck would they have built these mounds for? And if they were burial sites, then what did they bury? And you know, and so you hear lots of different things, and there's I've got my own theories about that. I think that they were not necessarily built by the Indians or the Native Americans. They were, some of them at least were built by these giants that were buried in these mounds. And
oh yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Are you familiar with the Serpent Mounds in southern Ohio there?
Yeah.
Around...
Yeah. And, I did a story here a while back, and it was a Dogman type story, and the Native Americans were having problems, many years ago, and they went to one of these mound sites and stole some of the Bigfoot skeletons, like the skulls and stuff like that, and they brought them down to, I think it was Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason they did it was because they thought that would bring the Bigfoot down to have a war with these dogmen things, and it did. And it to me it was just an interesting story, and it made me really think about the mound thing. And but anyway, you have some really cool theories about the Bigfoot, and I don't remember what all you wrote about it, but it was very interesting. If you would, could you kind of talk about that some?
Well, I haven't written very much myself, except when I get a notion. But I really want to, for my children, my grandchildren, I want to leave something behind. You got to leave something behind. So I'm really trying to write. I got 13 chapters, and then I got this. I got pissed off and tore it up. So, but
it was when we were talking about the Dogman.
Journeys, the dance. What's that?
We were talking about the Dogman thing, and you said,
on the Dogman.
Yeah, and you
I
said,
really don't.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the Dogman thing, that some information I've run into, and the guy that I'm going to be interviewing. But you gave on the types of Bigfoot, stuff like that. If you would kind of go over that, and the council of elders and stuff like that, because I thought that was kind of interesting.
It is very interesting, and I'm just starting to get into it a little bit more on that aspect of it. I believe that the Dogman is actually a type of Bigfoot. I believe that there are 4 main types or species, as you would, of Bigfoot that I would consider the watchers or protectors of the forest and the watchers of us, of mankind. I really believe that. I think that's their purpose. I think that there are 2 more types of Bigfoot with them that in years and years past, that when they were having trouble with the Indians and whatnot, and I would list them as what most people would say would be their centuries, or their have left the group that didn't want to change with the group. As these are intelligent creatures, I believe, but in an intelligent way different than us, where we are intelligent and high tech and whatnot. These creatures are intelligent and technologically in the ways of the world and the ways of nature, if you will. About the best I can explain it. They are a social group of creature that has a devised council, like say a pack of wolves has a alpha male and so forth, and it's all the way down the line. Like an animal like that, in some aspects of animal life, they have a hierarchy kind of thing. Well, that's what I'm saying when I talk about they have a council of elders. All right, because these Bigfoot, Sasquatch, according to myths and legends, have been talked about and around for thousands of years, right? And it would be like us if we were born, and the reason I say they're cousins is because of the DNA makeup and stuff that I've been reading about and hearing about, and the carbon-based life form. They are like a distant cousin. I truly believe that the missing link that the scientists and everybody talks about is actually Bigfoot. And I think when you talk about Neanderthal man and Cro-Magnon man back in those times, that before those times, that Bigfoot, in other words, Neanderthal is the evolved version of the Sasquatch creature. And I firmly believe that Sasquatch was a experiment made up by whoever. I'm not saying, I'm just saying I got this theory. I don't know for sure. You hear talk about the Anunnaki, right?
Well, the
aliens that came here,
stuff like that. And you know, some people use different language when they talk about that kind of thing. Some people say Anunnaki,
yeah,
and some people say
Anunnaki.
or the sons of God came into, you know, the daughters of men, and then they call them the Nephilim, that were the hybrid creatures.
Yep.
And you know, in a lot of ways, it's the same thing, because I read all of Zachariah Sitchin's books talking about the Anunnaki. He was wrong about a lot of stuff, and I can prove that
he was.
because he wasn't really a scholar the way that he said he was. And if anybody wants to check into that, they can go and check out some of Dr. Michael Heiser's material. He is the world's foremost scholar in ancient Semitic languages and iconography and things like that. And you can really learn a lot from that fellow. But Sitchin wasn't wrong about all of it. I'm telling you, he when I
about all of it. He had a good theory basis.
Yeah, when I listened to, well, basically when I read his books, and he was talking about these beings that came and they were in the southern kingdom or in the northern kingdom, stuff like that, and it made me think of the way that it was worded. It made me think of like South America. It made me think of like Africa. It made me think of
Antarctica.
Yeah, I mean, all those kind of things. It was just worded in such a way that it kind of it gave you a direction, and it gave you a kind of like a idea of where certain beings were ruling, and and they were messing around genetically with species that were here. So how much of that's true? I mean, I don't know exactly how much of that is true, but but I think
Stalin did that.
Yeah, and with the elongated skulls and stuff that are found all over the earth, and these giant skeletons that are found. And when we're talking about giant, you know, it's typically 8 to 10 footers, you know, kind of stuff like that, and sometimes bigger. And I believe that's where some of the Titans and stuff like that came in the Greek mythology. The mythology, I believe, you know, kind of gives you a clue to what to pay attention to. But when we were talking about the Dogman thing earlier, I was going to tell you something that I'm going to be interviewing someone here soon, Jerry Klein. He's a Bigfoot researcher in Ohio, and and he posted some pictures that he had taken with a trail cam. I think it was a trail cam he took these pictures with, but he had he was calling it juvenile Bigfoot, and there was several like pictures in the photo. Or there were several creatures in the photo, rather, and one of them had these little knobs on its forehead, and you really couldn't make out a whole lot more because it was actually a nighttime picture, and the eye shine when he made it into
Kind
a
of like a buck would have.
yeah, he made it into a black and white picture so you could see it. He kind of like over exposed it and stuff like that so you could see like where the eyes are, kind of where the eye shine was, and it made the eye shine look black, and then the forehead was kind of white, and it had these nubs on the forehead. Well, he had this a game warden person from LBL back when, I think that was in the 70s that happened in the LBL, Land Between the Lakes, and you know, there was something that killed the whole family out of the little camper they were in.
Little girl.
Well, this guy said, this guy said he was I think he said he was a park ranger there, and when they went to go check it out, they seen that, you know, it was a gruesome sight, very, very gruesome.
Have you seen the pictures of the bodies?
I haven't seen the pictures and stuff, but basically this
They are gruesome.
Yeah, this thing went in and killed the man, the wife. The little girl was found, like parts of the kid was found like up in the trees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was a very, very bad situation. And it
really affected those two deputy sheriffs.
Yes.
From what I understand.
So, but there was one guy who was there, that was are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. I heard something like squeak out, like I thought might have got hung up there. But anyway, there was a park ranger person that was there, and I could be wrong about that, but I think it was a park ranger. But he called, messaged Jerry, and said, "Look, what you have in your photo, I've seen before." And he was like, "Don't go back there," because it scared him for Jerry. And he was like, "Look, I seen this back in LBL," and he said when we went and checked out this camper, and these people were killed, and he described the whole scene and what have you, and it was a little bit different than what most people have heard on the way that it happened, and the body of the kid and stuff like that was found. Because there was like parts and stuff everywhere, and he said,
I never saw the
he
pictures
said,
of the kid, but I did the man and the woman.
Right, it was
and
bad.
You're right,
bad
totally,
stuff.
No human being I know could do that. I don't think. It was done.
No, he said that they the other authorities came, and you know, like the sheriffs and stuff like that, and he said that the Army had sent a team of Army snipers there. And they went back into the woods, tracked this creature down. And he said, I heard it, that that there was gunshots. Like, you know, he heard guns going off. And these are pros, you know. I mean, you know, these sniper guys, you can't see them 2 feet from
like
you.
Little Vietnam firefight.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Army snipers, dude. I mean, they're bad to the bone, dude. You can walk right by them 2 feet from you, and you won't see them. They went back there, and he said, then I heard on the radio, we have dispatched the creature. and
Uh-huh.
he said that it took 7 of them to load this creature into an army, like a deuce and a half, kind of whatever it was, the kind of stuff they used back then. And
Mm-hmm.
he said that when they came back through with this creature, they winched it out of the valley first of all because it was too heavy. They
Yeah.
couldn't carry it, so they winched it, up out of the valley, loaded it up, took 7 of them, and when they came back through, he said I got to get a look at it, and he said this creature had he said it didn't have the dog like legs. It had like Bigfoot type legs, hairy and
Uh-huh.
but human,
Yeah.
like man type legs. He said, but
Yeah.
it had a dog type face, but the snout was shorter.
Like a nose. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He said
That
the
is a nose.
snout was kind of shorter, more like a what would you call it, like a hyena type
Mm-hmm.
snout. And then he
Or a
said it had,
baboon.
yeah, baboon, exactly. And then he said that it had a set of like dog type ears, like on top of the head, but it also had a set of human type ears.
More rounded.
Yeah, so it had 2 sets of
Mm-hmm.
ears. And he said then the teeth, he said there was canine type teeth around the outside. When you looked at its teeth, there was like canine teeth around the outside, but on the inside there was a row of like human looking square type teeth that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there was these 2 nubs on the forehead, like these on the forehead. There's like 2 bumps, like type things, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
made him call Jerry. Was that Jerry had a picture of you could kind of see the face, but had these 2 nubs on the forehead, and he was like, "Don't go back there, man. You don't know what you're dealing with." But it was a very hybrid sounding creature, and with the double row of teeth and stuff like that, that makes it sound a lot like the Nephilim type thing.
You know
Oh,
about Sasquatch and horses, right?
oh
The
yeah,
rumor.
yeah. Now I've brought that up before, man. I've got made fun of for it,
Mm-hmm.
and cows too, man. I did an interview here not too. Well, I posted the interview anyway, the lost tapes. And he'd seen, the cows' tails being broken and stuff like that, and then the horses, they'll wrap their fingers up in the mane to hold their. And it'll look like some people will think, oh, Bigfoot braided my horse's mane, and there's a one guy that has he's kind of a pretty famous Bigfoot guy. He made fun of me here not too long ago, is what I heard. I haven't heard it myself, but one of my fans said I unsubscribed from him for doing that. But
Mm-hmm.
but the it's not that they're braiding the mane of the horse. It's that when they
Yeah.
wrap their fingers in it, that it tangles it up in such a way where they twist their
Mm-hmm.
fingers in that it looks like some really coarse braids. And some people think that the Bigfoot are coming to braid the mane of their horse. It's like, oh, isn't that so sweet? They braided my horse's mane. It's like, no, they're not braiding the horse's mane. They're doing something very bad to the horse, and I don't think the horse likes it. You know what I mean?
That's one thing. That's one thing I want to bring up about the creature that was appeared in front of my window here. It didn't have really natty, tangled hair on its body. It was pretty much straight, a little curly, wavy as you will. But it was amazing because most animals that have fur or hair per se are always natted up. This thing wasn't natted up.
It might
I
have been a
can't figure
female
that out.
then. It might have been a female. From what I hear,
We didn't smell nothing
yeah, from
when
what
we went
I
outside on.
right
Didn't smell nothing.
from what I hear, a lot of times the females will be very well groomed. If you had listened to the Lost Tapes videos, it was a 2-part series that I did.
Yeah, I remember. I watched those.
Yeah, he said that the female, its hair was immaculate. He said it was actually beautiful, but the males were matted and stuff like that. Not saying a male has to be matted, but that just kind of something I kind of think about from the eyewitness testimony on people like him. Over time, you start getting a picture of what you might encounter, But anyway, it might have been a male with decent groomed fur, and like you said, it's hair, it's not fur. It's kind of incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and I'll tell you one thing that impressed me about a story that you told was about the guy out west, well-known guy, but I ain't quite figured out who he is yet, but I've got a pretty good idea. But that had the one reach through his camper when he was guarding his quarry.
Yeah, that's that's the lost tapes one, and
I'm telling you,
it's so important that his name not get back out. He is such a credible dude, man. That guy and his wife risk everything to tell their story.
I'm telling you, I feel for him. I know his fear, and fear can be a good thing. Right. I know from military experience and whatnot, but fear can be an absolutely good thing. I'm glad we have it. But I feel his pain, and I worry about that family out there.
I know.
Because they're in a dangerous situation.
Yes, they are, and that's what I told him.
You can't really, when you see one of these things, there's no way to know whether you're dealing with the 1 through 4 type or the 5 and 6 type.
Yeah.
There's no way to know. And getting back to that, on a genetic level, as far as DNA, I mean, we have the same thing in the human race because, I mean, well, given a simple example, explain Siamese twins, right? Explain Bigfoot and the dog man, in that aspect. Explain deformities, in creatures. Mother Nature is going to deal out whatever Mother Nature wants to deal out under the circumstances. I'm sorry, but I truly believe that, But I'm a firm believer in that 5 and 6 being a genetic deformity of the Bigfoot Sasquatch creature. And like I said, I think the council is trying to get a handle on that. Another thing I think why more people are seeing it now is because I believe that Bigfoot being, you might say, the almighty watcher of nature in the world and our environment and whatnot, I believe they are trying to get back in touch with mankind to warn us of something, that we're destroying the environment or whatever. I got that theory too. Some people say, "Oh, that's far-fetched," but I mean, I got that human instinct feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of different theories, and that's why I like to have people like you on, so that you can share your theory and stuff like that. Because there's lots of different theories out there, and there's lots of people that say I'm crazy for how I believe it to be. And
well, lots of people. I got family members that laugh at me, and then I've got other family members that says that they're glad I'm into this because they think it's good for me to be into doing all this research on this and studying this creature and trying to find out the truth. Mankind has always been adventurous and always wanting to know the unknown and travel, go to space and whatnot. Just like it seems like it's part of a marker in our DNA that ain't quite understood yet. That some of the markers that we have, they don't know, but yet I believe that it's going to come out that Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Skookum, whatever you want to call him, they probably, if they're able to communicate, they'll probably tell you that that they don't go by Sasquatch, Bigfoot, maybe Skookum, I don't know, but we probably couldn't speak their language. Although I have heard theories that they speak
Oh yeah,
telepathically in seven different languages.
I've had Scott Carpenter on. He spoke to him, trying to taunt him, and he ended up getting zapped.
Is that the guy that's got 4 doctorate degrees?
No, Scott Carpenter is a fellow in Tennessee. He does research and he helped with the project where they got the DNA and stuff like that. He ended up getting some DNA. Kind of tricked them with tape and stuff on the trees. It pulled hair off
there's
of them.
DNA out there. There's DNA out there on these creatures, and you know, there's universities and governments that Texas A&M did. It was one of the universities that did a study on it, and they said they wanted to know if this woman that put it, from what I hear tell, the woman that turned the DNA in to have it tested by all these universities.
Yeah, Melba Ketchum.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
When she finally told them what it was, they didn't want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, no, because it almost proves the Nephilim theory correct, because what it proved was that the nuclear DNA, which is the father side, was unknown. The mitochondrial DNA, which is the mother side, was mostly it was Middle Eastern woman, you know, and then some of it was Native American, what they found, so that proves a lot of their stories true, where they said that Bigfoot would kidnap the women and stuff and take them off, and very interesting stuff. You talked a little bit about some of the Native American stuff that you have found. Can you elaborate on that some?
Yeah, I believe that the Native Americans, elders in their tribes, and especially some, I'm going to call them medicine men, a lot of them are called different things, but for instance, the medicine men are the only ones that are allowed to have any type of communication with these creatures at times. And the elders, some of the elders, the real old elders that are still left, that know the tracking techniques of their tribes, are the people that, if you want to try to track one of these things, you need to try to get them to teach you. It could be the closest way to be able to track these things. And even Bigfoot gives them a challenge, you know. They are so adapted to their environment, these Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Skookums, are that the Indians are the only ones that could even give the elders of them. Now, I don't know if they're passing it down, but the elders of them, and especially in probably the best tribe to get in contact with to do anything like that, I believe, would be the Cree Nation. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing I truly believe.
You've been doing this for a long time, before the Patterson Gimlin stuff came out.
Oh yeah, during the early years of my search, started with Rene Dow-Hendon. He's a Canadian guy that was doing it here in the United States in the Northwest Territories, and then Oregon, Washington, our Northwest, and doing it for the Smithsonian. He was operating under grants to go out for the Smithsonian to investigate these Native American legends and about this creature, and people that in general that had sightings that he would go out and interview.
Do you think that's where the cover-up started, is that he would go out and find these stories and cover them up?
I believe that he might have had a part in it, being that he was, taking government funded and through the Smithsonian money to do the research. So I think so our government could find out about them,
Right.
investigate them. But I believe it started with the reason that they allowed him a grant, and I'm sure they had some talks with him in order before he had offered him the grant to do it for the Smithsonian. I'm sure he was in contact. He had to been in order to get grant money to do that. But I believe it all started with the interest with the stories I told you about the pregnant female body that was found dead, that the loggers found, and the dead male that was found in the tree that had been struck by lightning out there in that area. And I believe that that's where the interest really started, when they finally had some proof of what he was investigating and whatnot. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so therefore they kind of it's like, oh my goodness, this is not what we thought.
And him being a foreigner from Canada, it really wasn't like, well, we got some Americans working on it, so
Right.
that helps on cover up too.
I'll tell you my theory on this whole thing, and I've been doing this for a little while, and I've collected so much information. I've went down the Nephilim road. I went down, all the roads that you've talked about and all that kind of thing. So if it was a Nephilim thing, when you look at what the Nephilim were in the scriptures, because I cover this stuff from a biblical worldview.
I understand that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
And because it makes sense,
Yeah.
So the sons of God came down unto the daughters of men and thought they were fair, and then they intermixed with them and produced this race called the Nephilim. They happened to end up being giants, but the sons of God weren't necessarily giants. They were human-looking beings, but not all of them had to be, because there was different types of angelic beings that looked everything from having a bull's head to having in a body of a man. Look at like the beasts that are before the throne in Revelations. Some of them have a dog's head, but a human body. Just a lot of different things like that.
Yeah, you hear about those.
So hold on. So
Okay.
when these creatures intermixed with man, the daughters of men, they produced mostly things that looked human, but they were giant. Because like Goliath and things like that, they more or less looked all human. And
Exactly.
so it's like, well, where did this hair? Where did the hairy thing come from? So when I looked at the story of Cain and Abel, there was one point, because the sons of God intermixed with the daughters of Cain. Even the regular people in biblical theology that believe, in the daughters of Cain and the sons of Seth, they know it was the daughters of Cain that were mixed with. So here's Cain. These sons of God came down and intermixed with his daughters and made these human-looking giants. But at some point, he killed Cain, and then he was marked with something that would cause fear, and he was ostracized from humanity, and he was not supposed to be around humans no more. And he said, well, what if I run into someone, they're going to kill me. So God marked him with a mark that caused fear to come on people when they saw him. And he went and he dwelt in the land of Nod, and it said, and then he knew his wife again, and they bore children. So this mark, I think, was the hairy thing that caused. I think the giants that came after he was ostracized end up being the Sasquatch. Because there's one story in the book of Jasher that said that Tubal-Cain and his, I think it was grandson, were out hunting one day, and they saw a beast from afar off, and they shot it with a bow and arrow and killed it. Mm-hmm. And then when they got up to him, they recognized him, and it was Cain. They killed Cain. But what would cause them to think it was a beast, an animal, other than fur or other than hair? So to me, that makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
To me, that makes the most sense, and I
agree with you. It does.
Yeah, I mean,
my theory goes
it's just
on
a theory too. It's just a theory.
Yeah.
So people can get angry all they want.
Based on the writings of the Bible, which I believe in too, and I believe your theory. My theory goes a little bit farther back before the writings of the Bible, right? In dealing with the Anunnaki, I call them, being a super highly technology.
That wasn't necessarily before the writings of the Bible. If you think about it, at the time the script, the text of the Anunnaki and stuff like that was written, that was written during the time that Abraham was living in Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
And if you think that was after the flood, Abraham lived, according also to the book of Jasher, he was living with Noah, separate from where the civilization was rising up, and Nimrod was rising up as kind of like a superpower, and it said it actually says he was becoming like the Nephilim, a mighty man or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But and some people think he actually was a Nephilim, but then God calls Abraham out of that area. His father was a person who made idols and like wooden idols and things like that, and then started to raise up prophets to give him the scriptures. So when people talk about the writings that came before the Bible, the reason that Abraham was called is because there was false teachings out. And so God called Abraham out of the same area where the writings of the Sumerians and the Anunnaki and all that kind of stuff was, and then he rose up prophets from among Abraham's descendants and gave them the scriptures and so it wasn't. It doesn't matter which one it preceded. Like if I was to write an autobiography on you right now, and then you were to have wrote something 10 years from now, it wouldn't make what you wrote wrong. It would make what you wrote. It would make what you wrote after what I wrote. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, exactly.
Abraham, you got to remember that the people from the flood, pre-flood, they lived to darn near 1,000 years. So after the flood happened, the people that were on the ark lived for many hundreds of years later after that. And so Abraham, he's sitting there living with Noah, being taught firsthand by Noah, all the stuff from pre-flood time. And here's all these false teachings coming up, and that's one of the reasons the Bible talks about Abraham's father was an idol maker. He made these wooden idols and stuff like that to all these false gods, and that was considered to be a bad thing, So you have Abraham being called out, and you had pre-flood stories and stuff like that in that area, but it wasn't true, and that's why Abraham was called out of the whole region.